So I'm a little over 2/3 of the way into my first semester of college, and I've already learned a ton, but especially about things that I wish I had done in high school and in the college search process. So this video today is for you high school students out there, things that I wish I did while I was in high school. Now, of course, coulda, woulda, shoulda. I cannot go back and change what I did, and for the most part, nothing is too drastic. It's not like I completely dropped the ball. No, I did completely drop the ball at the end of my sophomore year. But besides that, I've come to terms with that. Besides that, for the most part, it was pretty good. And speaking of the good things, I want to start this video off on a positive note with things that I did right in high school. I got an internship, I did digital marketing, and it kind of exposed me to the fact that digital marketing and the creative aspect of all of that, while I love it on a personal scale with this YouTube channel, I'm not really trying to do it for other businesses. So I was really grateful for that internship, and it looks great on my resume now that I'm applying to data science internships. Another good thing I did is I worked, and I definitely took working to the extreme. There was a point in time where during a school week, I would pull 40+ hours, and there is no need for the overwhelming majority of kids to do that, especially since I wasn't financially unstable with my family. I was literally just squirreling away money. Still am on weekends coming home from college. But point being, I think work is super important for high school kids. Now that I'm in college, there's a clear difference between the kids that worked and the kids that didn't work. I can tell right off the bat. You were a spoiled little brat that just stayed inside and played video games and developed yourself at all, and you went to work, you figured yourself out, you learned how to thrive in an environment that wasn't your own. Another good thing I did in high school was join my dual enrollment program. Now my high school was pretty big, so there's definitely a lot more opportunities in those big schools than the smaller ones, but chances are your high school has some kind of agreement with the local community college to take classes there. And if it doesn't, then the small school might work to your advantage, because it'll be easy to just walk into the administration's office instead of what I had to do in my big school, which was start to the guidance counselor, then go to the head of guidance, then go to the head of guidance, and then finally get to somebody who can make decisions. Starting my freshman year, I took classes at community college, and while most kids aren't going to be capable of that, most kids aren't going to be able to do that and work at the same time, that's perfectly fine. Point being, I joined a program. My school had other programs, the Wall Business and Finance Academy, or the STEM program, all of which tuned kids to different careers. And even if you don't wind up going into STEM or going into business, I still think the programs look really good for college applications, and they kind of develop you in a way that normal high school students don't get. There's support, there's structure, there's advisors, there's a class schedule, there's a group of kids who you're going to be able to call your friends, and that's all really useful. So if your school has some kind of program or maybe just some clubs, I would get involved. I also took hella AP classes. I wound up transferring in 20-some credits from AP classes alone, and I would highly, highly, highly recommend you take as many as possible. Not everyone is going to be able to handle the workload, and some teachers are going to make it more difficult than others, but if your school has a good AP program, then get on those. They will save you immense amounts of money once college comes. Pulling on the book Grit here that I was forced to read for one of my classes in college, they mention a statistic that students who make a commitment for 2 or more years have drastically higher grit scores, which is basically commitment scores, and they do better in life. So I committed to multiple things for more than 2 years, but point being, pick something. It's a sport, it's a club, it's a class, it's an AP class load, it's anything, a personal project, anything that you want. Pick it and commit to yourself for it for 2 years. Now, this isn't going to be so formal as, yes, swimming, I'm going to swim for 2 years, but keep in mind while you're doing stuff that you don't want to just be trying everything. You want to try a lot, but you definitely want to make sure you make some commitments. You get involved in the nuance of certain activities. And the last and most impactful good thing that I did in high school was form good habits. Getting to sleep early, waking up on time, eating healthy, working out, all of these things are super important to just life in general, and being well-rounded and being in school and having good study habits and knowing how to plan and schedule my time has really set me apart from the masses. You have so much room to screw up in high school, and some kids really screw up. But chances are, if you made it this far into a YouTube video about self-development in high school, you're not the normal teenager. Granted, there might be like 2 high school kids that actually make it this far into this specific random YouTube video. Yeah, no, nobody really watches these. But anyways, you're probably not normal, and that's a good thing. So form some good habits, separate yourself from the pack. It can be a little lonely at the top, but trust me, you'll be grateful for the habits that you form. And that's the juicy list, the list that you guys clicked on this video for, the things that I did wrong. And the first thing is, I did not get good grades. Sure, I was in this program and I took college classes and hella AP, but I got flat B's. I figured out a system that I could just absorb information into my brain and regurgitate it onto the exam, and I said, if that gets me a B, so be it. And I kind of regret this. Now that I'm in college and I'm actually trying to study for some reason, I have realized how just a little bit of study at time, just actually doing the homework instead of not doing the homework can really drastically improve your grades. So looking back at high school, I think, wow, what kind of school could I have gotten into if I had just put like 20% effort in? But coulda, woulda, shoulda, it is what it is, and I had a very successful high school career, so it's quite possible that the time and effort that I could have put into getting good grades was used more efficiently elsewhere. Another bad thing I did was I did not think enough about college applications. I really only looked at in-state schools, which is fine and it worked out, and I only looked at really business or tech schools, but I didn't look at that many tech schools. I definitely should have done more research into STEM. I didn't really know what I wanted to major in. I had a rough idea of economics and data science, and some of these ideas were forming, but for the most part, I could have done more research. It only took me like 3 weeks in a business school to realize how much I hated it. So had I just done a little bit more research, I think a lot of things could have gone smoother. But I mean, it's college. I'm probably going to switch my major again, just like statistically. How many times do kids tend to switch their majors? So it happens, but definitely doing a little bit more research in that process and just caring more. I did not want to go to college, and I still super advise that everybody take a gap year that can, especially if you're going into debt. I do not think debt is worth it for college. I'm lucky enough to not be going into debt. But for those kids that are applying to college for one reason or another, and I hope your parents are not one of them, putting in a little bit more effort is probably a good call. Another bad thing I did in high school was butt heads with multiple teachers. Pretty much every English teacher I had, and my chemistry teacher, and I have YouTube videos on this channel detailing those stories. I butt heads with them. I didn't like the way they graded their assignments. I didn't like the amount of homework they gave. I didn't like the subject. I didn't like them. And I would be a little bit of a little bitch in their classes. And I would have a little bit of an attitude, and I would kind of shrug off the class, and I would show up late, and I would have... I just had an attitude. I was not a good student to the teachers who I didn't like, and that's not good. That is not good. I've changed. That's years ago now, and I look back on that and I'm like, damn, I could have handled that better. I've apologized to all of those teachers. But butting heads with teachers is just one of those things that's not worth it. You might think you're on some moral high ground. You might think that you're better than the system, but in the end of the day, you're there to get in, get a decent grade, and get out. And butting heads with teachers is way more effort than that process should entail, and it just makes everything more difficult. So just shut up, sit in class, be a little bored, take a nap, and get on with your day. Another thing I didn't do, and even though I formed good habits, I don't think I started working out early enough. There's a lot of kids who I look at now who started lifting weights, say freshman year in high school, and they're absolutely jacked now. For me, I didn't start that process until really my junior year, and I went from running, into lifting, into quarantine, and I never really had time to just get big like you see some people. So looking back, I could have started that earlier, but it is what it is. And I don't really regret anything. Right now I'm at a above average level of fitness. I can run a damn good 5K, and I can lift some decent weights, and I'm just kind of getting my body back up to where it was before quarantine, and then I get to start that lifting process. So it's a little bit of an instant gratification thing. I could have been where I want to be today, but I'm still going to get there. It's not like I just ran out of testosterone overnight. Hopefully that doesn't happen. So yeah, starting as early as possible, especially on the lifting front, highly advantageous. And then the last thing that I didn't do was I didn't learn that much on my own time. There are a lot of things, mainly learning Spanish and learning how to code, that I always wanted to do, but I never did. I should have been more inquisitive with teaching myself stuff. I always had my head in a book, but a lot of it was on different topics, digital marketing, or different biographies that I was interested in, self-development books, and those are fantastic. I wish I could have done more. And I guess that's a reoccurring theme. I wish I did more. And in the end of the day, I only had so much time in high school, and I was only so disciplined, and I'm I'm not perfect, though, as much as I would want to be. So the gist of this is I wish I did more. I wish I just put in that little extra effort that I'm putting in now and have been putting in for kind of the end part of high school. Had I just dedicated 20 minutes a day to learning how to code or learning how to speak Spanish, I wouldn't be doing them now, and I would be really ahead of the game. Now I'm already ahead of the game. I'm graduating in 2.5 years instead of 4 from university, and I have great grades now that I have good habits and I know how to handle everything. So I don't think I mishandled high school, but I could have done more. In the end of the day, I could have always done more. So that's kind of my advice to you guys. There's this thing, the compounding effect of self-development, that if you're just 1% better every single day, then by the end of, say, a year, you're going to be drastically better than you were in the beginning, even though every day it was just 1%, 1%, 1%, because that's the compounding effect of improving yourself. So if you're in high school right now, don't think that you're above it all. Don't think that you can just be slacking off. Don't think that there are any excuses. Get to it. Try shit out. Commit to things. Do more. Learn. Actually figure your life out, because if you're not going to do it now, you probably never are. That's not necessarily true. A lot of people do it in college or after college, but the earlier you get started, the better. And maybe there's an argument for enjoying high school, for going to some parties, for playing some video games, and I did plenty of that, and there is plenty of time for that. But it's a massive misconception that if you just put a little effort in and you start reading a couple books, that all of a sudden you're gonna have no social life. No, there is plenty of time in the day, and you will learn, if you're a freshman in high school now, that as time goes on, you get busier and busier, but somehow you still get a lot of the stuff you were doing before done. So get more done. That's it. That's it. This was a corny, kind of cheesy self-help one, but it's kind of applicable. I don't know. There's not a lot of people making advice videos for high school kids on YouTube. Yeah, so that's going to be it for this video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Come back next week for another YouTube video on something. Probably my data science ultra learning experiment, but I don't really know. Yeah. Peace.